army will be very happy, because now they have to go round with that chicken neck, and they are very unhappy about it. So now they'll get a big chunk to go straight to Assam. Even Assam's the security would be greatly improved. So you got to take some kind of tough action on that. The problem with Islam is not its population growth. The problem with Islam is where they are in majority, Hindus cannot get justice. Kashmir, Malappuram, wherever you see Muslims in majority, Hindus are suffering. Therefore, we have to see that Muslims are in majority nowhere in any district of India.
The last two questions. The last two questions from the audience.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Bharat Shetty from Bangalore. So my question is, what's your take on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's disappearance?
Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose did not die in Taiwan. Now, what I am going to tell you, don't ask me proof, because I know there is proof, but I'll have to come to government, and last time, by the time I tried to get the records from Chandrasekhar's office, the government fell, so I could not get it. But I know this to be true, that Netaji created a myth that he was killed in Taiwan, in Taipei. Now these Americans who captured Taipei say that there is no record of any aeroplane crash. They have given it in writing. The Japanese tried to give a cover to Subhash Bose by announcing his death. What Subhash Bose did was he flew from Saigon to Manchuria, which is part of China now and was before, but in the World War II the Russians had captured it. So he saw that Germany is gone, Japan is gone, so he thought he might get support in Russia. So he went to Russia, and he crossed from Manchuria into Soviet Union. Stalin got the news, he got him arrested, and then Stalin communicated this to Jawaharlal Nehru. And later on, Stalin hanged Mr. Subhash Chandra Bose in 1953. This is my information. Now I am not in a position to supply you proof, but I am convinced of this story. This will come out, and why I believe that there must be some truth in this is when the courts, where Delhi High Court was given order to give files which are 13 files. There are 13 files which are never seen by anyone except the Prime Minister of India. And these files cannot be, the court was told that if we give these files, it will spoil our relation with a friendly country. Now, I don't know which friendly country they are talking about. I suppose it's the Soviet in Russia. But now we have a new Russia. Maybe the Russians might also agree to share this data. But Subhash Chandra Bose's death mystery has to be solved someday, and I hope we can do it in the next government.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Last question.
I am Dr. Shivakumar.
Yes.
Professor. Sir, if the BJP government comes, can we expect one nation, one law? Can we expect one nation, one law?
Of course, you must expect that. We have to fight for that. Article 370 must be removed. We must see that India becomes one nation, one law, and it becomes united, and it has to be done nicely. We are not going to force anything down anybody's throat, but it should be done nicely. But our game is that we should become one nation, one people, and not worry about all these divisions of language, religion, etc., etc., to recognize the great tradition of India, the culture of India, the heritage of India. That we have to do, and so we are certainly committed to that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Sami. I am Guru Raj.
Excuse me, please. He's asking.
I am Guru Raj. I am an engineer from Sirsi. I have two small questions for you. I remember that you had clearly judged Arvind Kejriwal and his team as Naxalites and communists.
Yeah.
During long back itself, when they were part of the India Against Corruption movement,
yes.
And I mean the whole nation was backing with him. But today we are clearly seeing that in broad daylight he is a Naxal and he is a communist, and it has been proven. Your judgment is spot on. But I was a bit worried with the Delhi result, seeing the Aam Aadmi Party's performance there. So how do we ensure that, how will the BJP ensure that the anti-Congress votes doesn't go to any other party and comes to BJP? This is one question. And the other one being on media. Most of the English media, what we see here, are totally biased. I mean, they are left-leaning. We can clearly see in the debate program also, they come with a pre-conclusion and keep on bombarding or targeting the BJP candidates. So how do we tackle them? These are my two questions.
Well, as first is concerned, it's one of my greatest drawbacks is that I'm little ahead of my time. So I make these announcements, people think it's ridiculous, and I get into a lot of trouble. When I came back from Harvard, I said, socialism will never work. We need market economy. Oh, everybody fell on me and I lost my job. I was removed from my professorship from IIT, which of course I won later on in a court case, but then by then 20 years had elapsed. So when you are a little ahead of your time, you get into trouble. Galileo said that the sun doesn't go around the earth, it's the earth which goes around the sun, and oh, he had to suffer imprisonment and God knows what. So that's a problem. But today I think the people are convinced that this man is a fraud, and I don't think that he has any future at all. You don't worry about him. Now, if you want, we can send him to Mangalore, you take care of him there. Now on your second question. All right, now you decide when you to draw the line. There was a second question you asked about
English media.
Media. Why you worry about media? You come to power tomorrow, they will be your servants also.
Good evening, sir. Welcome, warm welcome to our city, Mangalore. Actually, 3-4 months back, if someone asked me, who is Narendra Modi, what has he done, I would say, I don't know. That's not his fault, he has done a lot, but it's my fault. I did not keep an update. So thanks to this Namo Brigade, Namo campaign and all that, I took interest, I read about him, also about him, his personal life, also the good body work that he has. So I'm totally convinced that he can be the next best PM of our nation. There is one more person who actually totally convinced me, that is Rahul Gandhi.
Yeah.
He convinced me that Narendra Modi ji can be the best PM. So I want to ask you, who are his followers? What do they shout slogans? Like, what is positive about him? I want to know that.
About Rahul Gandhi?
Yeah, what slogans do they shout? Because he has proved himself like a big idiot in front of the nation already.
Rahul Gandhi's good qualities is an idiot. He is not educated. He is not educated. He is in social relations you can't rely on him, especially women. What more good qualities you want me to tell him? And he takes cocaine regularly. Yeah.
One more defamation case may kill.
I welcome it. He sent me one day a notice when I found that he had done fraud, on which he will go to jail, by the way. That case is coming in March. National Herald case, which is he's in deep trouble. That there his signature is there, his mother's signature is also there. So he sent me a notice. So the TV cameras all came. Rahul Gandhi sent you a notice. So I said, tell that idiot not to waste paper. Go straight to the court. I'll meet him there and teach him some law. I never heard after that. After the notice, no, nothing. I'm waiting for him to do some case. Please convince him that he should file a defamation case.
Good evening, sir. I am Purna Chandra. I am master student at NITK Surathkal. I used to follow the 2G case very closely, and I was very disappointed when Chidambaram got away. Is this the end of it? And
you won't be permanently disappointed, I can tell you that.
And one more request to you, somehow put Kapil Sibal and some Ankur Shittu to jail.
Well, you see, these Kapil Sibals and all are jokers. You should not waste your energy. till you feel you need some target practice, then you can work on this Kapil Sibal. But the real mischievous people are Sonia Gandhi and P. Chidambaram, and they have to be sent to jail without doubt. They have done so much damage to our economy, to our national security, that they have to be punished.
Good evening, Swami sir. My name is Naresh. Couple of weeks back, I read an article about you stating that Sri Lankan government has sent you a letter stating that Lord Sri Ram is their Aradhya Daiva, and 80% of Sri Lankans are Buddhist, but still they believe Lord Sri Ram is their Aradhya Daiva. But why is that vice versa in the case of Indians? Could you please elaborate on the letter which you received?
Yes, it's because the Sri Lankan government came to know that I was fighting this case in Supreme Court on the Ram Setu. So they sent me a copy of a report prepared and submitted to the Government of India, which the Government of India has not replied, some 2-3 years ago, on the environmental disaster that the Setu Samudram project will produce in the Gulf of Mannar and the Park Strait. So they sent me this report, and the government, and they have a right to object, because under the United Nations Law of the Sea, which was adopted in 1968 or 72, I forget the year, that law says that if any dredging or construction is done within the 25 kilometer diameter, that is 12 on either side of the border, then the other country's permission has to be taken for the project. Now this is 4 kilometers away from the dividing line of Gulf of Mannar and and Park Strait between India and Sri Lanka, that the halfway point is just 4 kilometers away from where the Setu Samudram canal is going to be dug. So the Sri Lankan government has a right, and if the Government of India does not take their permission, Sri Lankan government has a right to go to the International Court of Justice and file a suit against India. So therefore their report objecting to it has some legal basis. In that letter closing it, the Sri Lankan government said that we also agree with you that the Rama Setu should not be touched, because it is a matter of faith not only for India but for the Asian people, including the Sri Lankan people, and the Hindus and the Buddhists accept Rama as a iconic figure of divinity, and therefore we have preserved 32 sites in Sri Lanka where Sita used to have a bath, where Ravan's palace was, where Hanuman placed that Sanjeevani mountain. Everything is there in Sri Lanka. You should go and have a look at it, and hopefully the case is coming up on the 7th of January, and if I get I'm there, the question of Ram Setu now is not the issue. The issue is whether it should be declared as a national monument. If it is declared as a national monument, then the government has to maintain that Ram Setu, which means you can walk across to Sri Lanka, and we can have a trekking program like Namo Run, you know. And it's a very good thing that Sri Lankan has done it. I am very sorry that some of these drug financed extremist Tamils are making such a fuss and saying that we should boycott Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka consists of Tamils plus Oriya and Biharis who are Sinalas. The Sinalas are from Orissa and Bihar, and the Jaffna people are from Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So we have to treat both of them as Indians and regard the interest of India-Sri Lanka relations as a national issue, and for which the Tamil Nadu issue alone cannot decide, and therefore we must take a clear stand in favor of maintaining good relations with Sri Lanka.
Sir, namaste. I am Srinidhi Bharadwaj from Canara College, Mangalore.
Sir, he is here.
Yes,
he is
sir.
here.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, I want to, my first question is, I want to know your view about the Article 370, that is special privilege to the states of Jammu and Kashmir. And my second question is, won't the AAP, Aam Aadmi Party, be the thorn on the path of the success of NDA?
Well, the second question I already answered. Don't worry about all this. There is no thorn, nothing. It's not even a rose petal. It's a party which is on its way out. But on your first question, which is also the last question, because I have another
Yes.
engagement at 9 o'clock,
Yes.
and that is this: what about Article 370? You see, when the British left India, they made India into several pieces. Piece 1, Pakistan. Piece 2, that part which was directly administered by the British government, and that they left remaining part to India. And 565 kingdoms they have declared as independent country. Trivandrum, Travancore independent country. The Bhopal independent country. Like that in Cochin independent country. 565 independent countries. But in 1935 there was a Constitution of India which the British had adopted for themselves in administering India, where they said that if any of these kingdoms want to merge into British India, they must sign an instrument of accession, saying that I want to join unconditionally into India. In the British House of Parliament, the lower house of Parliament, that's called the House of Commons, an act was passed to create Pakistan, which was called the Indian Independence Act of 1947. In that they said that the instrument of accession of the Constitution of 1935 will be applicable. On that basis, Sardar Patel was able to get close to 450 kingdoms to merge into India by signing the instrument of accession. The remaining 110, 20, whatever, went to Pakistan, except one in the end, that was Kashmir. Now, the instrument of accession, if you read, does not talk about Article 370 at all. It only says that I hereby merge my kingdom into India unconditionally. So, the king of Kashmir, when he saw Pakistani troops had entered in his country, got panicky, came to Delhi and he said, please send to Sardar Patel, please send troops to protect me. He said, why I should protect you? You are a foreigner, you want protection, you sign the instrument of accession. And the man signed the instrument of accession. That's how Kashmir became part of India. Jawaharlal Nehru took it to the UN and made it into an international dispute. But even in the UN, there is no mention of Article 370. So, Article 370 was introduced later on by Jawaharlal Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah together. And they said that this article will be temporary, and it is to give security to the Kashmiri people that floods of people will not come from India and occupy Kashmir. It was totally illegal because it was not a cabinet decision, and therefore I am not bound by it. I had recently gone to Srinagar to address a meeting in Lal Chowk, and the press people asked me, what about 370? I said, I never promised 370, so don't ask me. So who promised? I said, Jawaharlal Nehru, go and ask him. They said, how can we go and ask him? I said, go and ask a terrorist and he will send you there to meet him. Now, why should I be responsible for a personal assurance of Jawaharlal Nehru? So 370 should be removed. And under the constitution, if you read Article 370 in the constitution, you don't need a parliament vote. You only need the president to issue a proclamation, a notification that 370 has been scrapped and 370 will be scrapped. So all you need is the cabinet to draft a resolution, send it to the president, get it signed, and 370 is over. So be assured that we will do that when the time comes.
So I think, sir, one last question from my side.
Yeah.
One last question. So I have dreamt of a beautiful cabinet headed by Narendra Modi. Whenever your name comes, the dilemma also comes. Which one you prefer? Foreign Ministry, Finance Ministry, Defense or Home?
When Chandrasekhar became Prime Minister, somebody told him, no, don't give Swami Home Ministry because he will put all people in jail. He's a very ruthless fellow. So Chandrasekhar said, do you know, even if I make him Minister of Sports, he will dominate the cabinet anyway.